This is a bit of a different video for me. I'm a social worker, have the YouTube channel, and you're a nutritionist. But I thought we'd come together today just to pick your brains on nutrition and how your sort of insights could help busy professionals, because I'm a social worker and I just feel that we're always looking out for other people, but sometimes we can actually neglect ourselves. So maybe I'll give you a little chance to introduce yourself properly and just say a bit about like your qualification and how you've been helping me at the moment.
Absolutely. So it's lovely to be on. Basically, I went back to university actually when I was 27, a long time ago now, 13 years ago. Got a degree in nutritional sciences and then a master's degree in food and nutritional sciences as well, which is fantastic, but that doesn't actually qualify me as a proper professional nutritionist. I have a regulatory body called the Association for Nutrition, and that ultimately is what sets me up as being a proper professional. It's a shame because it's a bit of a tricky industry to work in that's not protected or regulated, but we sort of have the highest qualifications in the UK. And I'm currently the UK's best public health nutritionist. So yeah, it's been an exciting year. And then I suppose in terms of working with you, it's been fantastic so far, very positive. Obviously, post little one, I think it's quite important that we get our nutrition well balanced and, picking your energy up, making sure your little one's nice and healthy at the same time. I think it's been a real positive start, hasn't it?
It has. So, I reached out to you in the first place because it was just before I was about to have my second baby, and I was thinking, I felt I was going a little bit off track with my health. Like I felt I wasn't sort of eating enough nutritious food, even though it's something that's really important to me, just because I'd been really ill during the whole of my pregnancy, and I just felt like I really needed to prioritize it. And I also felt in my day-to-day job working in a hospital, I was going to the canteen and buying the food there, but I felt like I was having a lot of stodgy food and then feeling really full, but not really feeling like it was really helping me. And then also like spending money on biscuits and just like eating stuff like that and just feeling like I was going really off track and then wasting loads of money, not really like prepping. I feel like I spent so much money on food on the weekly shop and then all my food was going off. And I just felt like there must be other sort of busy professionals out there that are having the same issues as me. So I thought maybe we could talk about some of those key issues and you sort of give a few tips on how people can manage those issues. So maybe we start with the chaotic work schedule. Sometimes you don't know when you're going to finish, and then sometimes you don't know when you're going to get lunch or a snack, and then it can lead to binge eating, I think, and stress eating as well. So what would you say about that sort of thing?
Yeah, because of how long I've done this for, I've come across lots of people from lots of different sort of walks of life and job roles and things. And I find that a real important thing to make us feel, I suppose, less stressed and a little bit more in control is just stepping back. And when we do have a slight 5, 10 minutes, just having a little bit of a plan
Yeah.
so that if you know that you're going to be out of the house, for example, if I'm at a school for X amount of time, what I will do is I'll make sure I've got my lunch and I've got some snacks.
Mhm.
And if I'm then in traffic on the way home, if I have a long drive, I know that if it goes past my evening meal usual time, I've got some snacks that I can go at so that I'm not pulling into a service station and getting,
Yeah.
a fast food meal too regular. And that I'm able to get home and then have my evening meal that's there ready to plan anyway. And just about knowing that you can juggle your days around a bit just to fit in with what your life's like and what the day throws at you.
Yeah, I think that's a really helpful tip because that's what was sort of impacting me. Like I because you'd be seeing someone and like doing your job and then doing a meeting and then something had come up and I'd think, right, I'm going to walk down and get something from the canteen, but then I just wouldn't have time and then time's going on and then you end up thinking, right, I'm looking over there and someone's brought a load of chocolate in, I'll just have that. And then you end up feeling by 3 o'clock you're just absolutely exhausted because you've like crashed. And I think that can happen. So yeah, I was quite surprised when you gave me the template of sort of having breakfast, then snack, then lunch, and then a snack, like how many snacks you'd sort of recommend. But I realized that actually I probably was just having unhealthy snacks as opposed to like a banana at that time or whatever. So I think that that's helpful. So what sort of snacks would you say, like fruit and nuts and things?
Yeah, so in terms of snacks, like we've spoke about, it's very, very important to have a variety of different snacks. So we'll have some that give us, fuel. So for example, our fruits are carbohydrate-based snacks. So maybe the odd little bit of homemade banana bread. We have a recipe for that. But little grab and go snacks are like your fruits and your like rice cakes and little bits like that. So you've got those ones. Then it's important that maybe, for example, we have some foods that maybe sustain our energy a little bit longer if we're sat down for long periods of times. And they're obviously our fat-based snacks. So that could be things like a little bit of cheese with some crackers. It could be some nuts. It could be some avocado with something. And that just gives us a little bit of energy, but over a longer period of time because there's not a big hit. And then at the same time as that, we mentioned the healthy snacks. It's also important that we incorporate the snacks that we perceive maybe as a little bit more unhealthy,
Yeah.
like the chocolate crisps. But my advice usually with those is you would do it in a setting where you enjoy it and you can, because if you're working on the computer and you've got a Mars bar, you
Yeah.
could just be not thinking about the enjoyment. So I would use those when we're in a setting where it's enjoyable.
Yeah, and you've kind of made me think about a time I was so stressed, everything was going wrong with my day, and I was sat in the car and I'd gone to the service station, like mentioned before, just bought one of those big bags of buttons, and I was just eating them really fast because I was anxious, like I like since that moment was like I really need to stop doing that because it's yeah, it's like mindlessly just doing it. I didn't enjoy it, and then I felt awful afterwards, and I think. It's different, but like buying like a single bar of chocolate is better for me, I've realized, because those bags, like you have no idea how much you're eating. And I think when you are stressed or anxious and you start eating like that fast, that's when you can just overdo it and then regret it afterwards. And I think like what you've taught me around like sort of doing it healthily is really good. So I think it's good to have that balance. And then another thing is like being aware of dehydration, because I think sometimes that can really impact on your energy levels, can't it?
Yeah, definitely. So that's a real big thing because obviously, if you're not drinking enough water, you can get those headaches that come on because with the amount of water that we need, maybe around 2 liters is sensible. It also helps our food digest well as well, so
Yeah.
that you get less of a bloating feeling, maybe because your food's being softened as it goes through your body. But also at the same time, if you're not drinking water and there's none in your body, your skin's going to be dry as we'll know, but also because that's less fluid that's in your body to make everything work well, which again is the stress that will bring on that headache.
Yeah.
So I find it a real easy one for me because I don't really like water. I use a little bit of cordial, so it
Yeah.
actually makes it better for me to get my water in than not at all.
Yeah.
And just maybe having like a little bit next to you the whole time that you're working, you can sip at it then and maybe sometimes just think, oh, look at the time, I'll have a drink because that time can go and not drink anything. So it's good just to get a bit of a water routine as well if you don't drink a lot.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing, like sometimes you can just stay at your desk and time goes by and you're like taking phone calls and stuff. So I think that's a really good point. Why do you think that people do get that sort of like energy crash around like 3 o'clock or why does that happen, would you say?
There's lots of different reasons that it could be. I think the main one for most people, in my experience, is just that they don't eat enough during the day. So you might get up in the morning, yourself, you've got, two little ones, and
Yeah.
before you know it, you're like, oh, I've had breakfast, sorry, and I've not thought about myself, but now I haven't got time because I've got to get to the office or to work. And then you get to work and you get straight in your work, and then it's lunchtime. And before you know it, you've eaten all night, all morning. You get to lunchtime and you've got no energy.
Yeah.
So I think we focus on our breakfast in the morning, gives us a little bit of fuel. And if you're making the kids something and you've got that busy life, what's to stop you having what the kids are having?
Yeah.
Just make a little. Because if you're making the time to cook for the kids, more for yourself and it's no extra work. But then you might find like we potentially mid morning you've got a snack, lunchtime you've got your lunch, and before you know it, you've got a constant stream of energy going, so that
Yeah.
actually it can get you through the day quite easily.
Yeah, and I find that, when I was saying about having those big meals, like at the canteen, it was like big stodgy mash and gravy and all of that. And actually, it made me feel a bit sick. But now I'm doing the things of like having maybe a smaller meal and the snack. Actually, I don't feel like bloated anymore, which is really nice. And I think for me, just having like writing the plan down ahead of the week is making a massive difference. And it's saving me loads of money as well. So that's been good. And then just making sure that I am having that variety of like getting the fats in and the meat for me because I am eating meat and like the proteins and stuff is like really helpful. So yeah, I think overall it's just something that's worth thinking about because we kind of look holistically at other people and like how we're going to help them, but we need to look holistically at ourselves. And like you say, if you've got kids, like you might be prioritizing them, but to look after them effectively, it's good for you to be also looking after yourself. So. I think they're like some of the main tips I'd have the sort of to pull out of your expertise really. But I'm thinking in terms of like meal prepping, would there be any like meals that you'd particularly recommend that people try?
Yeah, there's lots of really good ones that I always go to. Like, for example, my favourite is like a chili. It is
Yeah,
literally just you can use your lentils and your pulses and your beans, or your meat or your meat substitutes, and you just chuck it in a pan with a couple of tins of tomatoes, a tin of kidney beans, some onions, and a bit of spice, and you can have an absolute massive batch of chili in 10 minutes.
yeah,
Um, I had a little bit of a chat yesterday with someone talking about how they don't have a lot of time. And I'm sort of saying, well, you can even make a meal in a microwave. If you had, for example, some tofu, or if you had maybe some prawns that are ready cooked, obviously, ready to eat, you have to cook that. But then you might have a tin of tomatoes, some spices, and some tinned vegetables with microwavable rice. And you've got a curry in the microwave in 5 minutes.
yeah,
So there are definitely little tricks, luckily, coming from what I do, that I understand it and I work with it. But lots of recipes people think have to be really intense and take a long time, when actually if you look at it and you stand back from it, a lot of it is just throw it all in the pan, cook it for 10 minutes and serve it, really.
yeah. And I think that is helpful. Like I like your recipes because they're not so overwhelming. Like if I see a recipe and it's got 35 things in, and I think I'm gonna have to buy it all. Not only does it cost you about £50, you think I may as well have gone to the Thai restaurant. It's like it just feels like a complete waste. And then you get really into doing that for a few days and then you go off track. So yeah, I think that's really helpful advice. So thank you. And what I'm going to do is I'll leave all your details in the description box. So if people are interested in getting your help, they can do that. And you really have helped me. So I'm really grateful. And I feel like it's been a really good start to having my little one and managing two, and then setting me up for when I do return to work after my maternity leave. So that's great.